So I want to make this short video just to talk about the two different types of sweat glands that we have as humans. Okay, so in lab we just labeled them sweat glands. Okay, but they're actually two different types and they develop at different points in our lifetime. So our first one is, you can see here's a sweat gland. This is called an eccrine sweat gland, and it ducts itself. They both end up ducting to the surface of her skin. That's why it's an exocrine gland. Okay, but this one is going directly to her skin. But if you'll notice this one, which is an epicrine sweat gland, it is ducting. It eventually will get out to the surface, but it ducts itself into a hair follicle. So your epicrine ducts into a hair follicle, eventually will get itself out. The ecrine just goes straight to the surface. Now, they're different because this one we have all the time. This one we're going to see develop during puberty. Okay, so I'm just going to use an example of a little boy because I had a little boy myself, and when he was young and everything, he would go outside and he would run and play, and he'd come in, he'd be all sweaty, but he didn't stink. But as he matured and hit puberty, he actually started to stink. And that's because this sweat gland started to develop. And they call this a sweet sweat, which is weird because it stinks. But what it's doing, this one produces mostly like a salty substance. This one more of a sugary, sweet substance. And you think, well, why does that stink? And the reason that stinks is because bacteria likes that sweetness, and the bacteria is what's causing that sweat to stink. Okay, so that's the difference. So this is an ecrine, and this one actually is a merocrine, which is, where it just spits up and it is fine. This one's an apocrine, where part of it pinches off, the top part goes to the top. So I've added these to your drawing here. So if you want to just add them here, and then I've got them in here as number 1. This one is going up behind. Might have labeled it over here a little bit better. Do you see this one here? That one's going directly to the surface. So going directly to the surface is an ecrine, which is a merocrine. Remember, it just spits up and it's fine. So these directly onto the surface. You're going to find this in the palms of your hands and the soles of your feet and your forehead. So you get sweaty palms when you get nervous. Now you have them in other locations. That's just where they're most prevalent. And so your forehead will start dripping. If you ever gotten sweat from your forehead and you've tasted it, it tastes salty. And I know we all have had that. Okay, so this is a merocrine, this one here, and I also have put it here. So, but this one here, I drew in, and I drew it ducting onto that hair follicle. So I just scribbled it in and I labeled it 2, and then I've come down here and have 2. This is your apocrine sweat gland, and that is going to duct onto a hair follicle. It doesn't develop until puberty. And we only have them in our armpits, our genital area, and the anus. And that's where that sweaty, smelly stuff has come from, but again at puberty. And then that is known as our sweet sweat. And I said the reason it's called that is because it actually had a sweetness to it, but it stinks because of the bacteria. So that's your two different types of sweat glands that you need to know for lecture.